Previously on Python for beginners. Now this is how you write a while loop in Python. First, you would say while. This code may look a little bit complicated, but let me break it down for you. Loops are a very powerful tool in programming, and this is the while loop. There's also another type of loop called the for loop, and I'll be covering that in the next video. Welcome guys to the 7th video in the Python for beginners series. I'm glad you can make it. In this video, we'll be looking at for loops. So without any further ado, let's roll the intro sequence and get right into it. For loops are generally used to iterate over some existing objects. A list of existing objects, for example. Here's what I mean. Let me create a variable which is a list called subjects and give it some values like maths, science, English, social studies, and second language. Should be enough. Now, what if I want to print each and every element of this list subjects individually, one by one? I would use a for loop for this. The way you do that is by writing the for keyword first, then creating a variable. You can name this variable anything you want. I'm going to name this subject since it makes sense because we're iterating through this list called subjects here. Say for subject in subjects, and the line with a colon, enter. The PyCharm automatically indents your code for you, and then print subject. Alright, when I run this program, you should see that it's printed all the elements of the list subjects in order. Now, how and why does this even work? Let me explain. First, it creates a list called subjects and puts all these elements into it. And then it comes down, it sees this for keyword here and knows that this is a for loop. It creates this variable called subject, and during the first iteration of this for loop, the value of this variable subject will be the first element of the subjects list, right? So in this case, during the first iteration, the value of subject is math. And then it comes down, it sees this print function, it says print subject, and it's going to print the value of subject, which is math, during the first iteration. In this case, we've used string as our object, but can we do the same thing with numbers? Yes, of course we can. I'm going to create a list called numbers and give it some values, say 0 to 9 should be enough. Then for num, again num makes sense because I'm iterating through this list called numbers here. For num in numbers, print num. Now this is the exact same code as before. I've just changed the list and the names of the variables here. You should see that it's printed all the elements of our list from 0 to 9. This works with any data type. Now, what if you want to print 100 numbers using a for loop? Will you sit and write all the values from 0 to 100 by hand like this? No, of course not. For this, we use an inbuilt function called range in Python. Range is a very useful function, and I'm going to show you how to use it. We're going to say for num, which stands for number, in range 100, print num. What's going on here? This function range takes in one argument, which is 100 in this case, and it returns kind of like a list of all the numbers from 0 till 99, because Python counts from 0 and the 100th number from 0 is 99. So when I run this program, you should see that it's printed all the numbers from 0 to 99. What if you want to print the numbers from 1 to 100? You can give another argument here and say for num in range, the first argument is the first value and the last argument will be the last value which is not considered. So we'd say this: for num in range 1 to 101, print num. When I run this program, you should see that it's printed all the values from 1 all the way down to 100. That's pretty cool. Now, what is the difference between a for loop and a while loop? Well, a for loop is used when you want to repeat a piece of code n number of times, alright? But a while loop is used when you want to repeat a piece of code until some condition is met. And that's the basic difference here. Now let's look at an example where we want to break out of the loop even before it terminates on its own. Right? For that, I'm going to create this called numbers again and give it a bunch of values 0 to 9 again would do it, and a for loop again for num in numbers print num. This is just a generic for loop which is going to loop over all the elements here. But what if I wanted to print only till 5? I don't want it to print the rest of the elements here. How would I do this? I would use the break command for this. For that, first I need to create a condition. If num equals 5, then break. Right? What's happening here? First, notice that I've used two equal to signs here. That's because we're comparing the values of num and 5, and we're not assigning the value of 5 to num. And if the value of num is equal to 5, it's going to come here, it's going to see this break command, and it's going to break the entire loop and terminate the program right there. So when I run this, you should see that it's printed only 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's not printed 5. Now, why do you think that is? That's because when the value of num reached 5, it automatically broke and the program never gave it a chance to print 5, right? If we wanted to print 5 as well, we could just change the position of the print statement to up there. Then when we run it, you should see that it prints all 5 numbers. Moving on, let's look at the continue statement now. Alright, let's put the print statement back to where it was. And this is going to print all the values from 0 to 4 here. Now what is the continue statement? The continue statement, just like the break statement, is used when we want to stop whatever code we're running right now and jump to the next iteration of the loop. Let me demonstrate. For example, if the value of num is even, then we don't want to print it, okay? We just want to go into the next iteration. How would we do that? We're going to say if num mod 2 equals 0, continue. Now this is the modulo operator in Python, and it is used when you want to find the remainder when the left hand side is divided by the right hand side. Alright? And in this case, when num is divided by 2, if the resulting answer is equal to 0, then we know that the number is an even number, right? And in that case, we want to continue. That means we don't want to execute any code that's below it. We just want to jump to the next iteration of the for loop. When I run this, you should see that it has printed only 1 and 3. Let's see why this happened. First, the value of num was 0, alright? And then it came down, it saw this if statement, it checked if num was equal to 5. But no, it's equal to 0, right? Num is not equal to 5, so it did not execute the break statement. It came further down and it checked if num is an even number, right? If num divided by 2 gave a remainder of 0 or not. Yes, it did, right? 0 divided by 2 is 0 and it gave a remainder of 0, right? So then it came down, it executed this continue statement, and that's why it did not reach the print statement here and it reached the next iteration. And during the next iteration, the value of num was 1, alright? And when the value of num was 1, again it came, it checked if it was equal to 5, in this case it's not, so it did not break. It came down, it checked if num mod 2 is equal to 0. In this case it's equal to 1, because 1 divided by 2 gives the remainder of 1. So it did not continue, it did not execute this continue statement. It came down and printed the value of num, right? The same thing happened with 2. It's not equal to 5, so break is not executed. Comes down here, checks the value of num mod 2, which in this case is 0. So it continues, and that's why you don't see 2 being printed here. It just ignores this and then moves to the next iteration. And then it does the same thing with 3, and that's why you see 3 printed here. Then the same thing with 4, and since 4 is an even number, it does not print it. And then 5, once it reaches 5, it checks if num is equal to 5. In this case, yes, it is. So it just breaks the entire loop, and that terminates our program. That's it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to go down into the comment section and ask away. I'll be ready to help you out. And also, my next video is probably going to be about functions, and from there we'll be moving on to object-oriented programming, which is really the essence of modern day programming right now. And if you're liking the kind of content that I'm putting up on this channel, then please consider supporting me by liking the videos and of course sharing them with everyone you know. And I'll see you in one of my future videos. Till then, remember, anybody can code.